What is worthiness? It's a recognition that all that is your home, that you are at the center of all that is focused on you and is delivering everything you're wanting with no effort on your part. Welcome to Worthiness Wednesday. I'm Barry Gruber, the Enlightenment Guy. For more than a decade, I've helped people master their mindsets so they can create lives they love and get results without the burnout or the hustle. And today, I'm going to be talking with you about several client experiences illustrating a key milestone that almost every client moves through when they begin the positively focused practice. For those of you for whom this is the first video you've seen of mine, the positively focused practice is a collection of practices I have put together into a package that helps people attain enlightenment. Enlightenment is nothing more than realizing what you are and living your life from there. And when you do that, you cannot help but live what I call the charmed life, which is an experience where everything you're wanting is happening on your behalf without you having to do anything to realize those things. The positively focused practice is based on fundamental spiritual dynamics which underlie how physical reality works. But it's not just physical reality that these fundamental dynamics govern. They govern all that is occurring within all that is. And so when you realize these fundamental dynamics, you can see how you can come into tremendous empowerment. I wanted to say power, but power is a misnomer because it's not about power, it's about allowing. You are naturally aligned with the joyful, delicious, eternal love of all that is. And when you align with that, when you allow yourself to align with that, you cannot help but realize what I call the charmed life. And every one of my clients are having this experience. But as I said, they first have to move through certain milestones. And the milestone I want to talk about today is a milestone everyone in the practice has realized, has moved through, especially the advanced practitioners. And in this particular session, this particular video, I'm going to be sharing an excerpt from a session I had with a client who is really working through this milestone. What is the milestone? So here it is. Before I lay it out, I have to characterize one of the tools that we use in the practice so that you can understand the excerpt when I play it, because the client is going to be talking about being below 8. I'm going to be talking about that too. So you may have seen online, if you search for it, it's easy to find, the emotional scale. The emotional scale is a list of emotions coined by Abraham and Esther Hicks that details the emotional range we move through as we're tuning into particular vibrational frequencies. Most people can't perceive vibrational frequencies, so another alternative for perceiving vibrational frequencies are thoughts and beliefs. So whenever we entertain or activate a thought or a belief, which is akin to a vibrational frequency, then we experience an emotion, and that emotion is telling us something important. Abraham and Esther's list of emotions is a very good guide for determining where you are relative to your vibrational frequency, relative to your relationship with your broader perspective. And we use this emotional scale to help us learn how to tune into our broader perspective. 8, if you look it up online, you'll see that 8, the emotion listed at 8, contentment, is the median, the middle point between being increasingly tuned into your broader perspective or increasingly disconnected from your broader perspective. Now, if you know anything about alignment, you know that how I just said that has some distortion in it, but just bear with me. I'm trying to keep this simple so that I can get through the whole video. So we describe this demarcation zone as above 8 or below 8. Below 8 means you're experiencing a negative emotion. Above 8 means you're experiencing a positive emotion. And if you look at the emotional scale, if you Google it, you'll see that every emotion above 8 on the emotional scale is positive, and the emotions below 8 on the emotional scale are negative. Just as a caveat, all emotions are positive because they're all telling you something you really want to know. They're actually telling you 3 things you really want to know, but that's too much information to go into in this video. Okay, so the milestone. It's a paradox. Almost any elite skill will confront you with this paradox. The positively focused practice is an elite skill. It is something you must ongoingly master, and the ongoing mastery never ends. And in order to master it, you have to chronically practice it, as with any elite practice. And the milestone that I'm referring to is what happens when someone really digs into the practice, realizes both the immediate initial results, the guaranteed results that show up almost immediately, move through that, and then come into more advanced results that they're producing, which causes them to want to lean in more to the practice because it feels so good to be in the practice, and the results they produce, the manifestations they create for themselves, are so astounding that they want more. So when you get to that stage, you reach this milestone, and the milestone is you're aware of where you are vibrationally, and you're aware of where you're wanting to be. And that gap between where you are and where you're wanting to be, when you focus on that gap, you end up in a state of frustration because you're wanting to be here, but you're here, and you're recognizing this gap right here. And so when you're focused there, and when you're focused here, can I see? Yeah. When you're focused here and you're wanting to be here, over here, you're going to feel negative emotion, frustration, because you're really wanting to be here, but you're here. And so dissatisfaction occurs here, and then frustration occurs because you're really wanting to be here. You're actually here. And so this is the challenge and the paradox of this milestone, is that in this practice, you could say the same thing with meditation or with yoga or any other spiritual practice. In such a practice, you have to be in a state of acceptance of where you are. You have to be in the present moment of where you are. Now, in a previous episode, I talked about the moment of becoming. That's the magical space. If you can be in the moment of becoming about where you are, then you realize that you're both here, here, and here all at the same time because you're in the moment of becoming. Now, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about describing the moment of becoming because I did that in a previous episode. You can go and watch that video and learn more about that. But the point is, if you're in the moment of becoming, then there is no frustration. This is akin to the paradox of enjoying the journey. Life is a journey, it's not a destination. That's a very trite term, but it's so accurate. And if you can be in the journey, if you can be in the moment of becoming, the moment in which all that is occurring, and as a result of all that is occurring, you're resting in the expansion, then there's no perception of a gap between where you are and where you want to be. But most clients, when they get into this advanced level of practice, they're wanting to move quickly. They're not in the journey. They're trying to get to some destination, but there is no destination because we're eternal and we're forever moving forward. So there's no destination. There's no end point. But they feel like they're wanting to get somewhere that they're not. And when they do that, they're not in the moment of becoming. And so they're focused on what they haven't achieved instead of what they have achieved. Now, Even perceiving, so let's say you're here and you're wanting to be here, but you've got some enlightenment going on, so you're over here and you're focusing here on what you've achieved. Even here, you're not in the moment of becoming, because whatever you have achieved is past tense. It's done. And so the sweet spot is being in the moment of becoming, being in that space where you're recognizing that this is a journey and you're enjoying the journey for the journey's sake. But most people who come into this practice, especially when they get to the advanced practice, they encounter frustration. So now I'm going to play a clip from this session with this client, and you can hear the frustration in his voice, but you can also perceive how clear he is about what he's experiencing. And that is a hallmark of this practice. I can say that better. That's a hallmark of someone who is on the way to mastery of this practice. So I'll play that clip now. Take a listen.
I guess, there's a part of me that, has been frustrated with why I'm having trouble. There's a part of me that is frustrated with why I'm resisting either prioritizing or going deeper with the practice. Because there's part of me that wants it to be an easy thing. I was like, oh, well, I've done a bunch of hard things and they didn't seem hard to me. There's lots of things that people say would be difficult or whatever that doesn't seem that difficult to me. Why is this difficult? And maybe some of that's, I guess I interpret that you're frustrated at me, I guess. And is that really just me frustration with myself?
Yeah, it's Lisa was having this trouble quite a while ago. Lisa,
Yeah.
and her daughter April too. April's going through that right now. It's not a good idea. I know it's a challenge. It's not a good idea. It's hard not to do this, to be aware of where you are, aware of where you're not, and then get frustrated about it. Getting frustrated about it does not help, because you've gone below 8 on your expansion, and then you can't see your expansion. You're too focused on what you haven't expanded into yet.
And I felt like part of me was doing the opposite. I felt part of me was appreciating these areas that I have, made progress in. Yes, some of it was defensiveness, some of it was ego, some of it was excuse. But there was a part of it that was not collapsing into this idea, oh, well, I'm failing part of the practice towards my family, but I'm succeeding in all these other areas.
You can hear his clarity, can't you? And yet he's still frustrated. And he's frustrated because he's focusing on where he's not. He's focusing on where he's wanting to be and is not there, instead of focusing on the journey that he's moving toward there. And again, as I said a moment ago, it's a paradox. If you're focusing on trying to get somewhere where you're not, you're focused on a destination. And a destination doesn't exist in a spiritual practice. You're constantly expanding into more. And so the appropriate focus is on the state of expansion, which is occurring in the moment of becoming. This is enlightenment. This is where your worthiness shows up. Because when you can focus on where you're becoming, where everything is happening all at once, then you come into a state of clarity. And in that state of clarity, you realize your worthiness. What is worthiness? It's a recognition that all that is your home, that you are at the center of all that is focused on you and is delivering everything you're wanting with no effort on your part. But that realization, now think about the paradox of what you've heard so far. That realization where you're realizing that everything you're wanting is happening with no effort on your part, you're not in that state of being if you're feeling frustration. If you're feeling like you're needing to be there when you're here, you're not in that state of effortless realization, are you? And so when you're not in that state of effortless realization, which is where your broader perspective always is, there's a discord between you and your broader perspective. And so you're experiencing a state of frustration. The emotion frustration is telling you that what you're thinking about at that moment is not aligned with what your broader perspective is thinking on that same subject in that moment. Your broader perspective is knowing that you are right where you're needing to be, that everything is unfolding perfectly for you, and that there's no destination. But if you're thinking that you're here and you're wanting to be here, you're thinking of a destination. So there's a discord between you and your broader perspective, and that discord shows up as a manifestation that feels like frustration. And that's what this client was experiencing. That's what Lisa, the master, one of the masters of this practice, was experiencing long ago. And that's what her daughter April was experiencing several months ago. Oh, this practice is so wonderful. And the client who's speaking in this snippet is correct. This is not an easy practice. It's a simple practice. It's simple. The principles are simple, but mastering those principles is not easy. And I would suggest that there's nothing in physical reality that compares to the difficulty of being, of aligning with all that you are. Because in order to align with all that you are, you have to move through a number of paradoxes. In this episode, I've just talked about one. And this is the epitome of this practice. This is the epitome of spirituality. This is the epitome of the fundamental spiritual principles underlying how physical reality works. Because they are fundamental spiritual principles and they underlie how physical reality works, it makes sense that they would be more difficult to master than anything that exists in physical reality. And that's true because they are the function from which physical reality emerges. So of course it's going to be a little difficult figuring this out. But the good news is, almost immediately, once you begin this practice, the results show up and you feel better. That's why every client in the beginning feels better when they leave the session and is eager to come back because they feel so good. So good. My broader perspective is telling me I should talk about cults. There was a client who had a wonderful statement about this not being a cult and why. I'm going to create a Worthiness Wednesday episode about that because it's an important one. So I'm not going to talk about the cultish nature, the seeming cultish nature of what you're hearing. It's not a cult. It's so good. Okay. I'm going to leave this here. It's really good. Life is so good. Your life is so good. Everything that's happening in your life is on purpose, purposely designed to foster your expansion. Life is great. Okay. If you want to make a comment or have a question, please do so in the comments. And in the meantime, I'll see you in the next video.